All right, now nationally, is this tacky or is all fair in politics? Voters go to the polls in Massachusetts to fill the seat left by the death of Senator Edward Kennedy. Barack Obama has come to the aid of Democrat Martha Coakley, and at a rally, Coakley said Martin Luther King would support her in the race. He'd be standing here with us. She said she should be voted into the Senate because Dr. King's dream is unfinished. His dream is unrealized. Republican opponent Scott Brown has blasted her for using MLK Day as a platform like this. Joining us, the editor of Turner's Two Cents, Cameron Turner. Hi, Cameron.
Fred, how are you?
Good, thank you. What do you think of Martha Coakley's statement? Did she cross the line? Do you think it'll backfire?
No, she didn't cross the line. I mean, it's no different from Republican Party candidates mentioning conservative heroes. They often invoke the memory of Ronald Reagan and so on. Dr. King was a liberal. And I think that if he was alive today, he would more than likely he would certainly be supporting the Democratic Party. However, I do think that he would be a bit disappointed. The Democratic Party has just not shown the kind of boldness that I think Dr. King would have wanted with respect, say, to health care. So I don't think Martha Coakley was wrong in saying what she said. She may have been a bit presumptuous, however.
All right, talking about the Democratic Party, I thought a very interesting column by Dr. Boyce Watkins. He's a noted scholar, professor, and African-American Speaker of the Year. Now, Dr. Watkins asked this question. Would Martin Luther King support Barack Obama? At the very least, it's an interesting thought. What do you think, Cameron?
You know, I read that column as well, and Boyce Watkins, in my opinion, hit the nail square on the head. I do think, building on what I said a moment ago, if Dr. King were alive, he certainly would be supporting the Democratic Party, but I don't think that he would be enthusiastic. Like so many liberals, I think Dr. King would be disappointed by the lack of backbone demonstrated by President Obama with respect to the health care issue. I know that Dr. King would be unhappy with the president's escalation of troops in Afghanistan. Not to mention President Obama's refusal to address the disparity in unemployment. The Congressional Black Caucus went to President Obama and said, you've got to say something, at least say something about the fact that white unemployment is 10% nationally, black unemployment is 15% nationally. The president refused to even speak to that issue. And that would be a big disappointment.
All right, and Cameron, what would the president say about that fact? What should he say?
I think he has to acknowledge that there is some kind of systemic institutional difference at the heart of this, and that when we're talking about finding solutions for the nation's ills, government leaders cannot continue to act as though it's just coincidence or just happenstance that African Americans are at the bottom of so many of these measures. With respect to unemployment specifically, there is the issue of joblessness and how outsourcing has disproportionately affected the black community.
But Cameron,
issues of education are crucial to this.
But is it safe to say it's also affected the white community?
I'm sorry, Fred, we had a technical something. I didn't hear your last comment.
Is it not safe to say that outsourcing has affected the white community?
Well, certainly. But when we talk about the difference, when you've got national unemployment, the national figure is 10%. The black figure is 15%. That is a difference that is so significant. Difference of 50%. We can't act as if that's unimportant. And when the Congressional Black Caucus went to President Obama and raised this, he dismissed them. It is unconscionable. And I certainly think Dr. King would find it unconscionable for an African-American president to dismiss so soundly the congressional caucus that represents so many African Americans. We're not going to get to progress. We're not going to solve problems when this sort of thing happens. And it's a big disappointment to black folks, to liberals in general. And I think that's why Martha Coakley is facing a neck-and-neck race in Massachusetts. The Democratic Party has failed to mobilize and energize its base. The Republicans have done a great job getting their people activated. But the liberal base, which is the heart of the Democratic Party, is feeling very lackluster because they feel let down by their national leadership.
All right, Cameron, as always, good job. We'll keep an eye on that race in Massachusetts. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, Fred.